Hi, Leo, Sun and Rising. Welcome to your May 2022 Astro Update. It's Raina here. And I was just thinking before I began this, I was thinking, okay, where's all the action? So there's going to be a lot of Aries energy, even though we are now into Taurus season, because some of these inner planets like Venus and Mars are coming in after the fact. But Jupiter is also going into Aries, and this is more of a long-term thing. So that's significant that you're having three planets in this house. And but I was thinking that for Leo, this is the ninth house. And even though this forms a trine to your sun or your ascendant, because it's a fellow fire sign, so it's a very friendly angle, it still feels kind of awkward to talk about this because it's the ninth house. And to me, the ninth house is this place that, yeah, if you're going to travel long distances, then maybe it is very relevant for you, or if you're in academia in any capacity. But if you're just a Joe Schmo walking around, how does this really make sense? Well, it can be on a subtler level. It can be in terms of your own feelings of expansiveness, positivity, and the like. And, the ninth house is the God house. So it is associated with religion, but it's also associated with philosophy. And every religion has its own set of, well, I would say its own dogma. I was going to say do's and don'ts, but that doesn't sound right. But its own way of looking at life, its own philosophy. So this kind of thing may not seem like it's very important overall when you compare it to the angular houses, and the 10th house is an example of one of those angular houses, that with the Taurus energy you will be seeing some action in as well, and that's the house of career. So you might be saying, I want to hear more about that. I don't really care about the ninth house. But really, the truth is that the ninth house can be about what is the meaning of life. Well, if you don't know or you don't think about those kind of things and you're just in the world trying to make a name for yourself, which is what the 10th house would be, that can lead to a lot of dead ends because you may even get successful doing it. I think Leo people can be especially successful when they put their mind on something. But the problem is that you may not be happy. And so you will see very clearly the difference between success and happiness, that one does not guarantee the other. See what I said right now? That was philosophical. And maybe that's because I'm a Sagittarian, and that's the house of that's the sign that rules the ninth house. So that bigger picture vibe is present and accounted for here. But we can look at mundane things too. So, I mean, on the second of the month, Venus goes into Aries. So you've had time with Venus being in the eighth house. And maybe this has even been, I always talk about it in terms of somebody who's in a coupleship, a relationship, and the deep dive into what it means, what love means to them at the deepest of levels, not the shallow, the more shallow seventh house, which is kind of the pomp and circumstance, getting married, having the ring, having the reception, having that legal document. The seventh house is legal affairs. But what about the love itself? Well, you have to look to the eighth house for that that emotion. It's a water house, Scorpio's domain. So I now that I think about it, you can do that by yourself. You don't need another person to do that. So maybe you've been doing some soul searching in terms of your relationship and what it means to you. And if it's really happening, if you are coupled, do you have that kind of intimacy that a true relationship requires? rather than just kind of the surface relationship. The ninth house can be finding love through someone of a different ethnicity. So you might even find love if you are traveling in the month of May. And or if you've been talking to somebody on the internet and they're from another country and you're making plans to visit them, things like that can be what is happening with Venus in the ninth. But it's just expanding the idea of love. And sometimes this is another thing. People can choose their partner based on conditioning. And that's where other races and ethnicities get involved, because if somebody really loves somebody that is from a totally different background than they are, in some cases they might resist that because they're afraid of that, the stuff around them, the people around them kind of being against it. And this can happen in all races, all religious groups, it could be like a mixed marriage type of situation, all ethnicities. This is not, just limited to one thing. This is part of the human condition. And the ninth house is about expansion. So expanding the idea of who you can love may come into play in this way. It can also be getting money, obtaining money for attracting money for higher education and for spiritual trainings. So if you've been really wanting to go to yoga teacher training and haven't had the funds for the down payment, they may magically appear. I'm being slightly facetious because I don't know how often that happens, but just kind of, maybe you get a loan. I don't know. Eighth house Venus can be trying to get a loan or getting a loan, securing a loan, or getting an inheritance. So when it goes into the ninth house, maybe now you're able to buy those things that you want. On the 10th, Jupiter goes into Aries. This is an important date, May 10th. Jupiter going into Aries, going into that same house, Jupiter in the house that it rules. So that just adds to the emphasis on expanding in all areas and including territory. Jupiter is going to go back into Pisces, though, this year. So it'll go back into the 8th house. And this can be another placement for inheritance, too, Jupiter in the 8th. So just to let you know about that. On the same day of the 10th, Mercury goes retrograde at 4 degrees of Gemini. So Gemini is also a friendly angle to Leo, coming from the other side. And so this is your 11th house of hopes and wishes. So it's very interesting because Mercury will eventually go back into a late degree of Taurus. So that would be in your 10th house. So these are the two areas, the 10th and 11th, that deal with goals. The 11th house can be goals other than career goals. And that might be part of what you're thinking about. Like maybe some of you would like to live abroad and you're really thinking about making a trip. Maybe this is Jupiter in Aries during the next few months will be an initial trip to kind of research and see exactly how it would feel to live there long term, but you are going to make up your mind. Some of you who are of retirement age, this can be, I'm just speaking for the United States. There are people who move to other countries when they are in the second half of their 60s because they can live off of their retirement better. For some people, they don't get a lot and they want to make it go as far as possible. So, this could be in Southeast Asia. It could be Mexico, just any place where the cost of living is a lot lower. Costa Rica in Central America, is a common destination, but some other countries in Central America too. But anyway, that's what's happening. So you might be thinking about those goals long term. But another thing is that the 11th house is a house of gains. So that can be something where you are crunching the numbers in terms of how you financially profit from career endeavors, and you might be rethinking some of these things. On the 16th, we have a lunar eclipse at 25 degrees of Scorpio, and there's another angular house for you. And in this case, this is the 4th house of home and family. Pretty intense because it's a water house and because it's in Scorpio too. So a lunar eclipse, I mean, that can be like a very quick sale of a house or moving out of a house. I mean, when I say quick, it might not be on that date, but it's kind of sudden, is what I meant to say, because it's really a letting go of something. Now, I feel like the 4th house is the mother, so it could be something letting go with her. Many reasons why. One of them being if you have a negative history with her, then you may feel like you have to make a clean break. But it might be also the family home. So if there's some kind of like, that was what I was trying to say before, if there is some kind of situation and your mom has passed and you are trying to deal with the estate, and some people think that the 4th house is the father. So let's just say one of the parents. And this is the kind of the aftermath of some of the other things that you have to clean up, perhaps. I don't know. Because this might mean that the family home is something that you decide to let go of. Sometimes people hold on to things out of sentimentality. And Leo people, if you're sun in Leo, I should say, that you may have planets in Cancer, inner planets in Cancer, and it makes you much more sentimental. And it makes it harder for you to let go of things because you're already a fixed sign, so change isn't your best friend. You like to kind of keep things as they are. So that might be kind of like a grace, God's grace, that allows you to just let go of the past. And then it could be just something from childhood too. Definitely. That's why I said it could be intense, because it could be some kind of an issue that you may have had that, like a memory that just kept dogging you and things like that. And you're able to let go of it. But even if this is your own property and you really want to live abroad and you feel this sense of you're being held back by this home, and sometimes people, they might have 2 homes, but because of tax, real estate taxes and upkeep and things like that, I can understand why somebody wouldn't want to just keep that. And maybe they just have the money for one property. That's also possible. On the 20th, the sun goes into Gemini, so the sun goes into the 11th house, and I feel like there's a lot of idealism in May for you because you've got the 9th house and the 11th house activated here. And another thing about the 11th house is that it's very social. So and certainly you're ruled by the sun. So when the sun goes into the 11th house, you're the belle of the ball, so to speak. What is a male version of a belle? A ball. The ball of the ball. On the 22nd, Mercury, still in its retrograde motion, going back into Taurus. So that's the time it goes back into your 10th house, now is a great time to say that this is a general reading, because these dates that I'm giving you are not going to apply to everybody. Your chart is unique to you based on your time of birth, if it's a natal chart, and the date of birth, if it's solar. And but it's going to, be generally, it can give you some ideas of what's happening. So back on that date, on the 22nd, and also, when Mercury is retrograding, I could see somebody negotiating with higher ups, because 10th house can be authority figures. So there might be something you're negotiating, a raise maybe. That might be it, or like a raise. I don't know, but because I'm thinking of the 11th house and the financial gain that could be had. On the 24th of May, Mars goes into Aries. So, whoa, that's really fiery. Mars is in its own sign. And again, that's your sister, or you could say brother, since it's a masculine sign, fire sign. And the 9th house, this is wanderlust. This is somebody who just wants to just be a nomad and travel and just roam the earth. And maybe there is some plans to travel. So that if you haven't done so by then, you may really be motivated, because Mars can give a sense of urgency, especially if it's in Aries, my God. But on the 28th, Venus goes into Taurus, its own sign. These signs are going into their own sign, which is very interesting. That's kind of a concentrated effect or influence. So Taurus, again, your career sector, but this is so good for that. Yeah, maybe this is when you get your raise finally, because, cha-ching. Venus can be cha-ching. 10th house, your career, but also popularity. 10th house, your reputation in the world. It's good. Your reputation with people in positions of authority, really good. And that can lead to you being able to make things happen more easily, because you're attracting good to you, so that your success quotient can go up. On the 30th, we have a new moon at 9 degrees of Gemini, once again in that 11th house. But remember that this is during a Mercury retrograde, so you can't just assume that everything is going to fall into place. There might be some tweaking that needs to happen. Mercury is going direct on June 3rd, so just a few days, like 4 days after this. And then it needs time to come out of its shadow, but I'm always like, as soon as Mercury goes direct, I'm like, okay, time to rock and roll. So that can be like, if you've been trying to get, since Mercury retrograded in Gemini, that might have been some plan of yours that you changed your mind, and maybe this was something that was about to happen, and you kind of shifted gears. Well, this new moon can still make it happen, but Mercury has to come on board. And so I would say, especially as we get into June and Mercury goes back into Gemini, especially because when it goes direct, it's going to be in Taurus. So that's really not where it started out from. Okay, that's what I have for you, Leo. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I'm promoting my double readings. It all depends on what you like. If you've never had a chart reading, I recommend a deep dive reading, which is an hour of chart analysis, including like looking, what are your talents? Maybe there are some hidden talents that I can validate for you that you've always kind of suspected that you had. But also, what are the patterns, self-defeating patterns? That's something I specialize in. And then an hour of transits for the coming 12 months. And these are the things that can give you an idea of the trend of you in your life specifically, like where are the eclipses hitting and all of that good stuff. And that's called my deep dive reading. And then I have one where I do a chart analysis and the tarot, if you like the tarot, full-length readings for those, called the whole enchilada. And these are specially priced because you're buying 2 readings. You're getting a discount. So check out those readings and the rest of my offerings at the link below. Take care. Bye.